Over the last couple of days following metoo Sunday, a lot of women in the Dota community have come out with concerning stories about Dota personalities. The two I will be talking about in this video are GranDGrant and Zai Ori because they are very different and it's important to discuss both of them. Not just to hold people accountable for their actions, but also see what we as a community can learn from them. Right off the bat, I want to say that while GranDGrant's actions are unforgivable, in Zai Ori's case, it's more about knowing what could have been done differently and not necessarily to punish him. GranDGrant has very clearly been willfully taking advantage of, harassed, and attacked women, while in Zai Ori's accusations, it's not as black and white. What breaks my heart during all of this is that people have been warning each other about who to avoid during after-parties. If it was already known that certain people like Grant was behaving in ways that women needed to be wary of, then why wasn't he prosecuted sooner? I think BSJ put it very nicely in his stream from the other day.
As a man, it feels very hard to willingly tell other guys that they're being assholes. Do you know what I mean? I think that's the biggest deal that comes out to me here, is that this is a situation that only happens because when a guy's being an asshole, other guys aren't holding them accountable, and that's like a male culture. Like that is something that men do and have groomed each other to do. As a guy, you almost feel paralyzed as well, in the sense that it's like, I know I should tell this guy not to do this, but he's also like, I'm also going to get shit from my buds or whatever.
Men need to stop shaming each other for speaking up for women and labeling each other as white knights and simps just because they're doing what's right. And I think Valve needs to officially make it more clear that they do not condone sexist behavior. As a girl, I quickly realized that I couldn't speak on mic during Dota games, because I would risk getting harassed, hit on, epic trolled, or in other ways distracting my team from actually playing the game and working together. When you speak in Dota, whether you want to or not, if you have a female voice, you're very likely to get unwanted attention. You can of course say, just mute them or don't use the mic in the first place, but that doesn't really fix the root issue here. There needs to be actual consequences for the people who still behave this way and think they can get away with it. Women don't speak on mic because they want attention. We speak because it's a team game that we want to win by working together. So the accusations against Grant first started when Cofactor Strudel tweeted this. We telling esports sexual harassment stories, TI7 after party. One drunk caster staring at me and literally wouldn't let go of my hand. I had to wrench it off him with all my strength. Another person aggressively propositioned me for sex, even started undressing. I have experienced wrist grabbing myself, and I can guarantee you it's much worse than it sounds. For a man, it might be hard to really understand why it's so scary. A man is physically stronger, and having your entire arm inhibited like that feels extremely violating. If your right wrist is grabbed by someone much bigger and stronger than you, and still do when you're trying to pull away, they are basically communicating to you, I control you now, you can't leave until I let you. And it just leaves you feeling icky, slimy, cringing, and scared. She later tweeted that it was in fact Grant Harris, aka GranDGrant the caster, who had been grabbing her hand. Grant apologized, Cofactor Strudel accepted the apology, but then she tweeted again saying that another girl had been talking to her about an actual assault. Not long after, Anthony Hodgson made a Twitter thread pointing out the awful things Grant had been doing to Llama Down Under, a former female Dota 2 caster. He harassed her to the point where she got completely bullied out of the scene. It's worth noting here that I'm very disappointed in some of the people that assisted Grant in freezing out Llama. You can find a link to the full story down below and see for yourself. It becomes clear that the people in charge of hiring talent did not take it seriously when Llama expressed concern with a person who everyone already knew was problematic. I'm also getting fed up with all the people involved saying, I'm sorry, I didn't know. Anyone who watched Grant's streams of him bullying and shit-talking, getting drunk, and in general being super edgy, knew. It's impossible not to have known, or at least be suspicious. The Llama thing is awful, but we are still only at the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Grant. Twitter user Wicked Cosplay replied to the Llama situation, saying that she knew of 2 women who had yet to speak up about him assaulting them. Grant soon after made a public statement apologizing for his actions and saying that he has changed for the better. But if he really was, then why is he only apologizing now? It seems to me more like a "sorry I got caught." Then followed another tweet of him saying he's leaving the Dota scene indefinitely, and then EG releasing him as a member. Then Wicked once again brought up that Grant is a rapist, and a few hours later she sent out a tweet longer with a story about a girl's experience getting raped by Grant and possibly his friend. Strong trigger warning before you read this. I will not read it out in the video. If you want to see it, it's linked down below. It's horrible, not just because it's scary that such monsters walk around among us such as Grant, but more importantly because his friend who was with them didn't help her, and later Grant's other friend who told Grant to delete a VOD where he was talking about the incident, likely to protect him. It's like BSJ said, it's important that men hold each other accountable for these things. Don't partake, encourage, enable, or even ignore it. Speak up against it. Imagine it's your mother, sister, or daughter getting violated. What would you do then? Grant and his fans have tried to excuse this as part of his drinking problem and a troubled past. But this is unforgivable. You have to be a really sinister person to think doing any of this at any time in your life is okay. Bear in mind, Grant was in his mid-20s when he was doing this. He wasn't some clueless teenager. And what baffles me is the fact that Dota organizations still let this man grow a career within the community, knowing how he behaved back then. I remember how he was all those years ago. He was a psycho bully getting drunk on stream talking shit all day, and everyone was surprised to see him getting hired for big events all of a sudden. How could it happen, and how did they accept this behavior? I'm ashamed now to admit that I used to be his fan. I was young and edgy too, and I only thought it was a harmless character he played. But just because you used to be his fan doesn't make it right to try to excuse his actions now. This is the reality of what he is. He is a monster. Now, in the case of Ashni's accusations of Zai Ori, like I said, things are a bit grayer. I would like to start off by saying I don't think Ashni is lying, and I feel really bad for what she went through. But it's also important to point out that from Zai Ori's perspective, he didn't really do anything wrong. In fact, you could even argue that he is also a victim here. But before I add more of my opinions on it though, let's go through what each party has said. Former Dota 2 cosplayer and streamer Ashni came out on Twitter with her story about how the caster Zai Ori allegedly had been using his influence to coerce her into sleeping with him against her will. In essence, she's saying she felt obliged to return him a favor for having hired her for an event, and in order for her to be able to network with powerful people in the Dota 2 community. She says that he still pressured her to do this even after she expressed not wanting to, and even scaring her with blackmail. If she is telling the truth, that is an awful, awful thing, and he is surely an evil individual. But is that actually what happened? Zai Ori took to Twitch to explain his side of the story, which paints a very different picture. Let's look at both sides and then you can decide for yourself. A well-known Dota 2 caster invited me to the second Dota Summit as a cosplay guest, and we hung out a lot. We went to an after-party together in one of the hotel rooms with a bunch of Beyond the Summit staff and pro players. He was sleeping there and invited me to stay over so I didn't have to leave because I was drunk. We slept in the same bed. We didn't have sex, but he asked if he could tell everybody that we did. He wanted to look cooler to the community by lying about what we did, and I said yes. I let him. So Zai Ori explains in his stream response that they decided to hire a couple of cosplayers for the summit too, and among them was Ashni. It was a 1 gig kind of thing, so after the one event, their relationship as employer and employee was over. Then during the after party, he asked his friend to check if Ashni was single and interested in him, and he got a yes. So they hung out, got drunk, and by the end of it, they decided it would be easier to just sleep together in the same bed. Nothing happened because the event had been so tiring, but Zai Ori still got permission from Ashni to tell his friends that they did have sex. You can say what you will about that being a bit weird, but whether it is or not, he asked permission and she didn't have a problem with it.
So her whole, he wanted to look cooler to the community by lying about what he did, and I said yes. I wouldn't say it's the community. It's not like I got on Twitter and started bragging about it. It was more of hey, the fucking 5 dudes that I live with are going to be real meatheads about this. In retrospect, it was a lame thing to bring up, but it was my attempt at just being honest. Looking cooler to the community. I don't think it has nothing to do with the community. It was trying to look cooler in front of my roommates. That is an asterisk I would give there.
I felt so ashamed that I didn't follow through with f***ing him. He was this well-known caster, knew a lot of people in the industry I wanted to be a part of, and got me, a worthless nobody, invited to a private event with powerful people. I felt like I owed him something, and I'm so ashamed to say I didn't just stay away. I wish I was stronger. So here, she never says that she felt like Zai Ori made her feel like she owed him something. It was more an internal pressure she felt from within herself. Is that really Zai Ori's fault?
That really hurts my heart. Because I had no interest in like taking advantage of or like, I don't know, using somebody or in any, it was just hey, we've got this opportunity to hire people as cosplayers and pay them for their work. You were on my short list of cosplayers I'd met before that I knew did good work. And throughout the event, I thought we were jiving a little bit and had some vibes. I feel like I was used, man. That's really shitty. That's not why I was interested in her in the first place. I was interested in her because I thought she was an interesting person who I found physically attractive, and there's nothing more to it than that.
He invited me out to Christmas at the BTS house. I knew what he was going to try, and I went anyways because I wanted to be a part of that group so badly. I wanted to matter more than I respected myself. I got my period the first day there and said we couldn't do anything, but we could still hang out. He pressured me to do it anyways. I spent the week there having sex with him every day while I was still not feeling it, but feeling indebted to him like I owed it to him even though it felt wrong. Zai Ori explains that he and Gods were casting the Starletter series during Christmas, and so they wanted to also host a Christmas party for friends they knew nearby. They invited a bunch of Dota people, including Zai Ori inviting Ashni, because he considered her his number one at the time.
Again, it's just following the trail of breadcrumbs. I thought we left the Summit 2 on a relatively good spot, a mutual feeling of interest. So it was just a genuine attempt to try to connect with another human. So she says, he invited me to the BTS Christmas house. I knew he was going to try, and I went anyways because I wanted to be a part of the group so badly. I wanted to matter more than I respected myself. Again, that makes me really sad because it's like, this wasn't some crazy cool, it was just a fucking party, man. We're all people. There was no networking to be had. It was just me and God's boozing and yelling about Dota. The way she writes it, if like I knew he was going to try something, I was like, well, yeah, I was under the impression that like we were sexually attracted to one another, and that's what people that are attracted to each other want to do: have a nice time and canoodle. And you know, she paints it like it was this. I told him I didn't want to have sex, and he just kept trying. Not even like she didn't say no. My genuine analysis was, I think this girl's attracted to me. She told me that she had her period, and I remember saying like, that's not, you know, I've interacted with girls who have been self-conscious about that in the past, and it's biology. It doesn't bother me one way or the other. That's not some pressure thing of like, oh, we have to. It's just it's more me trying not to make you self-conscious, man.
Here, it's hard to know exactly what happened. She claims to have been pressured, he claims that he did no such thing. And it's very possible that they're both telling the truth. Like Zai Ori himself says, at a certain point there is only so much he can do to make sure she is comfortable. He can't read minds. After I got on the plane back home, he sent me a photo of bloody bed sheets. I was so ashamed and embarrassed of everything I had done. Not had strength as a woman, valued his comfort over my own, wanted to be a part of a group so bad I let myself do things that brought me discomfort and shame. I thought he would use the picture if I ever said anything, so I never did. I knew being honest about it would hurt so many people. I wish I had been stronger that first night.
I wish I had been stronger that first night. I mean, me too. Why did you tell my friend that you were single and interested in me if you weren't? You know, I didn't hit on her at the first day of the event because the event comes first. But once the after party kicks in, it's like, all right, the event's over. We're kind of just people now. I'm not, you know, if my probe came back and said, she's not interested, sorry, that would have been the end of it right there. I wouldn't have thought twice about it. I wouldn't have pursued her. I would have just shaken her hand and said, hey, thanks for the great work at the event. Hope to work with you again. Good luck to you. See you next time. I don't want to say I stand by what I did, but it's like you don't know what you don't know. If you're going to lie to me about, hey, are you interested? Yes. How am I supposed to know that's a fucking lie? What am I, a mind reader? This is a weird mixture of I feel guilty and shitty about this, but at the same time, I feel like I need to not over apologize and also stand on my own 2 feet of like, there's no wrongdoing to admit here. Sometimes it doesn't work out. I'm sorry that You didn't have enough confidence to just honestly say, I'm not interested in you. Yeah, the picture, I don't know. I don't remember specifically. I probably was changing the sheets and just noticed that there was a stain on the mattress, and I don't know, either thought it was funny or brought it up somehow. I don't remember specifically why or what the thought process was behind that, but I think all this would make sense if that conversation happened and she said, no, I'm not interested, and then I continued to do all this shit. Then this would be really sinister and really disgusting. But, you know, there were consent check boxes along the way. It's just shitty. It sucks. It really sucks to make other people feel bad. Again, it's like if she sees it as, well, I had to say yes because you're in charge. Sorry. What am I supposed to do there? I'm supposed to magically know that you only see me as a power figure and not a human? That you're willing to lie about being attracted to me because you think it's going to help your career, and then 5 years later you can spin it like I was gatekeeping the whole industry? That's not what happened.
One thing I've always stood by and generally accept as a truth among the vast majority of people is that real, genuine evil is incredibly rare. Most people are inherently good, and if they do something bad, it's usually unintentional. Most men don't rape, and most women who claim to be raped aren't lying. So why then has a man who claims innocence been accused of such a horrible thing if both of them are telling the truth? Well, the answer is the same as to most conflicts. What seems to have happened here is failed communication. We like to have a set bad and good person and paint the world in black and white, but usually most things are grey. Ashni's feelings are definitely real, and it's horrible that she went through what she did. Yet, I don't think it was Zai Ori's fault. Ashni felt compelled to do what she did in order to advance in the industry. Zai Ori just thought they had a genuine romantic connection. Should Zai Ori have been more aware of how his position was over hers, and that their power dynamic would make the relationship unfair in the first place? Yes, probably. But then again, what happened between them was among his friends at an after-party and Christmas party where they were no longer employer and employee. There, they were simply Twitch streamer / cosplayer and caster. The problem here isn't that Zai Ori took advantage of her. The problem is that she felt like that's what happened. But no matter how much I try to empathize with her point of view, I just can't justify his assassination online just because she felt guilty for having tried to climb the hierarchy by using him. In fact, you might even say that Zai Ori is the victim here, who got led on and manipulated into thinking she was into him, when she was in fact only using him as a step in the ladder. It's horrible that she felt the way she did, but I don't think directing that distress towards Zai Ori, who was just looking for a genuine connection, is the right thing to do. To be honest, I'm having a hard time pinpointing exactly what he did wrong, other than underestimating how much he valued his influence and powerful friends. So to conclude, I don't really think Zai Ori did anything wrong here. It feels like he genuinely thought they had a connection, and in his loneliness, took a chance on someone he really liked. He was not taking advantage of someone below him by rewarding them with opportunities. Did he do a few cringy things? Yeah, sure. The lying about having slept together and sending the period picture was pretty cringe. But was it with malicious intent? No. Everyone does cringy things sometimes we later regret. Lying about having slept with her isn't really about harassing women. It's more about how it's awful that men get virgin shamed the same way women get slut shamed. Ashni is insinuating that the image could be used as blackmail. But let's be real, no one would use a picture of some bloodstains as blackmail. Yeah, sending it was kinda dumb, but to me it just seems like something that might have looked funny in the moment. It's not, but that's not the point. The point is that he didn't intend for it to scare her. He thought they left on a good note. He wasn't aware that she had been sleeping with him against her will the entire time. Did he force himself on her? If he is telling the truth, absolutely not. It becomes a matter of he said, she said, but due to her vagueness and the way he appears in his response, it's hard to imagine any other reality. It doesn't matter how she felt the situation. If she explicitly expressed interest in him in consent, then what more could he do? He can't read thoughts. Could he have been more mindful about hitting on a woman who he hired for a gig? Yeah, sure, you can judge who you try to interact with by power dynamics and obsess about it and live in constant fear of accidentally taking advantage of people, but to me that kinda feels like a slippery slope. There comes a point when there's only so much you can do as a man to make sure you're both on the same page, and I'm having a hard time seeing what exactly he could have done differently, other than not asking if she was single and willing to begin with. It all started when he had his friend check on her if she was interested, and she allegedly said yes. If she had simply said no, that would have been the end of it. But she thought that would mean not getting more opportunities. I can empathize with her a little bit, just wanting to be nice to the guy who can potentially get you into the Dota scene, but at the same time, it's kinda scummy to pretend you're into a guy in order to do so. Also, we don't know what her response to Zai Ori's friend was. Maybe his friend embellished it and her reluctant, polite sure became an excited yes. But it doesn't really seem that way. It wasn't like with Weinstein, where he was literally gatekeeping the industry. It's one thing if it's your boss who hired you at the company you work for, but Zai Ori had hired her for one gig, and they only advanced romantically during the after-party when they were both just personalities in the Dota community. So while I think that Zai Ori didn't really do anything wrong, I still think there's something to learn from it. Nobody should ever feel like they're being violated, period. Even if they're being seemingly consenting. My friend who I discussed this with put it very nicely. I said that it's hard to really see the point in this allegation because Zai Ori didn't really do anything wrong, so what exactly is he being punished for and why? What can we learn from it? What's the point? And my good friend said, it's because it's so difficult that it's more important than ever to think about it and discuss it. In cases like the one about GranDGrant, it's very clear that he is a monster who did horrible things. So it's easy to say, yeah, hey guys, don't grab a girl's hand hard and don't force yourself on a girl who's drunk. But in Zai Ori's case, where he didn't really do anything obviously wrong, it's more important to understand why Ashni felt violated. Maybe Zai Ori, because he was in a position of power over her, should have been more mindful about making sure that she 100% was on board and not feeling pressured. In my opinion, Zai Ori's case isn't really about whether or not we should cancel him. I don't think he deserves any punishment. Instead, it seems like Ashni's intent is for the industry to learn and improve and bring awareness to what girls go through. All Dota personalities, if you have any influence at all and you suspect the girl you're flirting with might feel like she has to be nice to you for her to have more opportunities in the future, maybe don't make moves unless you're approached first. Make sure that she 100% is interested more than just being friends. Yeah, it can get cringy to ask too much, but when you're in that position, you kinda have to. Sorry this is a bit different video than usual. I've been working on it since Sunday. I've taken a lot of time to think about it and discuss it with friends with very different points of view. It's hard to talk about this topic, which is why it's so important. If you need someone to talk to and I can help, my DMs on Twitter and Discord are always open. Thank you for listening to this, and I hope you can take the time to reflect on your past actions and grow from them. It's like Slack said, don't stay a level 1 noob forever. Level up and grow, learn new things. Don't be a bigoted, ignorant asshole. Until next time, peace.